Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Simply Street English podcast. I just want to introduce this one because the sound quality is not going to be as good as normal. At the moment it is because I'm recording with my microphone, but for this whole podcast episode I'm driving at the same time as speaking, all safe of course, but there is a bit of background noise, so I do apologize if that annoys you. However, if you want to listen to some words that are to do with cars and the inside especially of the car, then stick around and use the transcript available to look up any words you don't know, and I guess just enjoy it is the main thing as well. So, welcome and let's get started. I do just want to quickly say that there are now 5 people in the Patreon page, so that's really cool. And so I'm going to have to welcome 2 new members, Natalia and Alba. So thank you both for joining, and I hope you enjoy this week's episode. Let's get started for real this time. Righty. Indicate and mirror signal maneuver. Okay, good. Righty. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Simply Street English podcast. You might be able to hear that today's episode is slightly different, because what I'm doing is I'm talking into my microphone, hands-free of course, while driving. Okay, so I have everything set up correctly and legally, so there is no problem here. I am hands-free and just talking to myself so you can hear some English. And today's topic is going to be about driving. I think that makes the most sense because obviously I am driving right now. So if you are a listener for the first time, then welcome. If you have been here before, then you're also welcome. If you don't know, then if you're able to follow this without too much trouble, then that's really good, and I'm glad because it means your English is getting very good. But if you are struggling slightly, then check out the transcript. That should give you obviously a bit more help, and you can learn some new vocabulary. The transcript will be available on Patreon, I think it is. Yep, patreon.com/ the Simply Street English podcast. Righty. So, talking about driving, I'm just going to talk about different things inside the car, and then maybe some things to do with the roads. We'll see. We shall see. So, I'm currently driving. I'm looking out of the windscreen. Now, the windscreen is the big window, I guess you'd call it, made of glass at the front of the car, or van, because I drive a van, right? So, that is the wind screen, because I guess it screens you from the wind, yeah. And that's what I look out of. I have mirrors on either side of me. I actually have a mirror at the top as well, but that doesn't really, it doesn't work as a mirror because it's a van, but it does have a camera, so I can see out the back anyway. And that, we'd call that that's called the rear view mirror, because you get a rear view, a view of the rear, I guess, what's behind you, right? And the 2 mirrors on the outside, on the right and the left, so I can see behind as well, are called the wing mirrors, right? So like a wing, like a bird, although the car obviously doesn't fly. Wing mirrors, okay, because they're on the wings, on the sides of the car or the vehicle. I've just driven past a lorry it doesn't have wing mirrors. It has cameras, so it's like a stick, but then I know it's got cameras on the end so that they can look at the screens inside the cab, inside the lorry, and they can see what's behind them. So that's a couple of new words for you. What have I got here? In front of me I've got obviously the steering wheel. That's how I steer, that's how I choose where to go when I'm turning. And to do with turning as well is you've got the indicators, right? If you're going left or if you're going right, you turn the indicator, and that flashes a little light on the back of the car, back of the vehicle, and it indicates or demonstrates where you are planning to turn, so that other road users can see what you're doing. In America, I think in American English they would call them blinkers, I think. Yeah, so because they blink on and off. But in the UK we call them your indicators or indicator lights. And it's good manners to use your indicators at islands, roundabouts and other turns, okay? So you let other road users know what you're doing. What else do I have in the car? I have a dashboard, and the dashboard is the part in just above the steering wheel where you can put things on top of it. Maybe I've got an iPhone charger on top of it. I've got a book for some reason, and the dashboard also has a display, and that is probably called a dashboard display. I'm not sure if there's a specific word apart from that, so that will have to do. There's also lots of buttons and controls for the car as well on my left hand side, and you can change the heating, whether you want it to be warm or cold. Actually today is quite sunny. It's like the start of spring, a little bit summery, about 16 degrees actually. I can see on my display in front of me, the display says 17 degrees, and that's Celsius. So I might as well talk about the display in front of me as well then. So the display tells me how fast I'm going, so my speed. I think I'm going to call that a speedometer, right? I believe that's the right word, but it's a display that shows how fast I'm going with a needle, and the needle points to the speed that I'm going. And on the left I've got how many revs, RPM, so a rev counter. I actually don't know why we have rev counters, because I'm not very into cars, so I don't understand why, but it's there. I've also got on my display how much fuel I have, so I'm on about half a tank right now. Again, there is a needle which says how much, it points to the amount of fuel, and fuel is what goes in the tank. Fuel makes it gives it the energy, I guess, to burn in the engine, the combustion. Again, I don't know a lot about cars, but I know that there's a process and it needs energy or fuel to power the engine. In this van I use diesel, but lots of cars use petrol, and of course there are now electric cars which use electricity. You can also get hybrid cars, which are a mixture of electricity and I think it's petrol, but it could be diesel. I'm not sure because I don't own one, but it means they can do both, hybrid. Right, what else have I got? On the display I can also see how many miles the van has gone, how many miles I've got left until it's empty, and other interesting things like that. And so it can measure lots of fun things like how far I've gone in a certain journey or things like that, which is interesting. I don't really use them. Not really that bothered. I'm not really that bothered. Okay, let's talk about speed. So I've got the speedometer on the display. How do I go faster? Right. Down by my feet I've got 3 pedals. That's what we call them, pedals. Like on a bicycle there are pedals, but these work slightly differently to a bicycle. You've got, on the left is the clutch, the middle is the brake, and on the right the accelerator. So let's talk about the clutch first. The clutch is operated with your left leg, and that is what helps to engage the gears. If I want to switch gears, I hold down the clutch and switch gears with the gear stick. I think it's called a gear stick, right? And that's with my left hand here, and I can go from 1 to 6 in this vehicle. That's what the clutch does. It engages and disengages the the gears. I've just had to slow down quite quickly because there's lots of traffic up ahead, and I did that by pressing down on the brake pedal. The brake pedal, as I said before, is the one in the middle, and that is operated with the right foot, as is the accelerator. I don't need to say much more about braking. You probably understand what that is. You slow the vehicle down. So if I want to slow down, I use the brake. To speed up, right, I use the accelerator. I think that's what it's called. That's just what's coming to my mind, right? I use the accelerator to speed up. So accelerate is just another word for speed up. Speed up is obviously a compound. It's made up of two words. But to accelerate means to go faster, to go from one speed, often from 0 to another. But you can accelerate from 20 to 60. You can accelerate from 60 to 90. Nope, not here, you can't. 60 to 70, that's legal. I know in Germany, on the autobahns, right, you can go above 90. I don't think there's a speed limit on the autobahn. But anyway, not here. Here, our speed limit is 70. So, what else can I say about what's inside the vehicle? I'm sitting on a seat. I wouldn't call it a chair because it's integrated, so it's built in to the car or the van, the vehicle. We'd call that a seat. And on my seat is connected. Let me try that again in better English. On my seat, there is a seat belt connected to it. So a seat belt goes across my body to protect me in case there is a crash, in case there is an accident, or in case I just need to slow down very, very quickly. It will lock into place, and instead of me flying out through the windscreen and getting very, very hurt or very badly injured or worse, dying, it stops me in my place. That's the seat belt. That's a safety feature. And the seat belt has a socket, and you plug it in and it helps you. Well, yes, it's a safety feature. What else do we have in terms of safety features? Advanced braking system. So I know in a lot of old cars, right, they don't have ABS, it's called. I can't explain what ABS is, except for it will help stop the car a lot better than brakes used to. We also have airbags in cars. I'm just trying to have a look now. Yep, on my steering wheel in front of me, it says airbag. Now, if there's a crash, if I hit something like a tree or another car, poof, there will be a reaction. Something will happen. The airbag will open, and that is supposed to stop me hitting my head off the steering wheel or anything else. It's a little bit more of a cushion. A cushion is like a pillow. It's soft and it's a safety feature. What else can I say about the car? I mentioned the windows, maybe. I can see out the windows. Windscreen wipers. Here we go. So, out the front window, which you remember is called the windscreen, yeah? I can use the windscreen wipers to clean the windscreen so I can see where I'm going. Let me just do that now. So I press one of these levers, and there it is. It squirts some water onto the windscreen and then wipes the windscreen. Perhaps I should mention these levers. So the indicator is on the left, and the one for the windscreen is on the right. It also does a couple of other things as well. On my car, the lever on the right does the lights, but in this van, the lights are just on a button or a knob on the right hand side. so slightly different. I also have an armchair. Try again. I do not have an armchair in here. I have an armrest that I put my arm on if I'm on motorways or at least an A road. So, just looking over to my left, I've actually got something called a glove box or a glove compartment, I think maybe we could call it as well. It's the bit under the dashboard, usually on the left hand side, obviously not where the driver is. It's on the passenger side. It's a small box that you can open and put small things in, like gloves, just like the name suggests, glove box. You probably use it, or at least in history it was used for putting your gloves in, maybe your driving gloves, if you use driving gloves, which I do not. At the moment, my microphone is sitting in the glove box, along with I think it's my bag and some paper towels. So that's what I use my glove box for. Sometimes I put my breakfast in there, and then it actually holds my bag so it doesn't fly around as well while I'm driving. So, is there anything else to say? There are small mirrors and compartments in here and lights. So those are things that just make your life a bit easier. If you need to see in the dark, you can put the light on. If you need to put things like glasses up top, you can put them overhead. And the lights, though, do not put the lights on when you're driving, because it's something Dad always said, don't have the light on while I'm driving because it distracts the driver. I think that's something that everybody knows, at least in the UK. It's like, you don't put the light on inside the car while you're driving because it distracts the driver. So maybe I'll do an episode about the roads themselves and what, signs and things like that. But today it was more just about some vocabulary from within the car itself. I have a few more things to mention, I think, before we finish. A couple of minutes and then we're done. So I'm glad you're still with me. Let's keep going. On the dashboard, again, we've got buttons. I didn't talk about all the buttons. We've got something called the hazard light. Now, the hazard lights you're supposed to use only if there is a hazard. For example, if you are driving on the motorway and you see a traffic jam up ahead, you can use it to warn people behind you that they need to slow down. That's one way to use the hazards. Or if you break down, so your car stops because there's a problem with the engine, or you've got a burst tire or anything like that, you can stop and put your hazard lights on just to let people know and see that you have a problem, and it helps them to avoid you, etc. Right? You've also got the controls for the heat. I think I mentioned that actually, but I didn't mention air control. So aircon is something that most cars have. My old car does not have that. So in the summer it's very, very, very hot inside my car. But the van has lovely aircon. Air conditioning. Air control, I think I just called it. It's actually called air conditioning, not air control. Air conditioning. Righty. I think that's about it. The air comes out of the air vents, and I'm struggling to think of anything else to say. There's floor mats on the floor. Apart from that, though, I think that's everything for this episode. It would be great to hear from you folks listening to the podcast. If you are listening on Spotify, why not drop a comment? If you're on YouTube, you can do the same thing. Apple Podcasts, I have no idea if you can leave a comment. I don't know. But grab yourself the transcript if you'd like to support the podcast. Simply Street English on Patreon. It would be lovely to see you there. I hope your English is doing really well. Keep listening. Pick something and listen to it every day. That's what I do with my language learning. So I'm happy to help you with yours, and I'm glad that you've listened to this podcast. Cool. Have a lovely day, and See you in the next episode. Bye.